Hey, what's going on, guys? So I'm trying something new. I have this new camera, the Hollyland Lyra. This isn't an advertisement or promoting or anything like that, but I saw a lot of good reviews about it, and I wanted to upgrade my software to something that looked more professional, just look better sound and things like that. But this first video, I'm gonna try it out just to see because I've been having issues with the sort of like shutter speed, and I have it set a certain way. It shouldn't be doing that, but it may just be that my laptop can't handle a certain amount of power. So while I could upload this in 4K, I have it at a lower resolution just to see how things go. But I wanted to just sort of run down my little bit of history on YouTube, just because there's a lot of new people who haven't heard this, things of that nature, and also my history as a wrestling fan, because you may not know it. So I started out being a fan of wrestling in the 80s, like the late 80s. I'm born in 82. I'll be 44 this year, I believe. And I know that always sounds crazy when I say that, but at a certain point, I don't really see the need to just keep following when your birthday is, how old you are. It probably won't be until I'm close to my 60s to where it'll start to matter again, because you're thinking about retiring soon and stuff like that. Not at 60. Your odds are you're not doing it these days, but yeah, I started out in the late 80s. I can't remember exactly when, but I'm sure I just started watching WWF Superstars and things like that on the Saturday morning, and that's what drew me in. But what helped make me become a bigger fan was my grandmother. My grandmother would order the pay-per-views because she was a wrestling fan. So she would order the pay-per-views, and I would come over there every time, or the family would. We'd just be over there watching. I have a distinct, vivid memory of watching Warrior beat Hogan at WrestleMania at my grandma's. I can't remember all of the shows, all of the months, but I know that we used to do that. Somewhere in the early to mid '90s, I fell out of wrestling, and a lot of that's just sort of, you could sort of have fads, especially when you're younger. I feel like we actually still do it now as adults, but we don't always look at it that way. But you have these things that you're really into, and then there's a certain moment when you just sort of pivot, or just the interest isn't there. So you just sort of move on. And when I did leave, Brett was just starting to blow up. I'd say probably like around the time he got his second title reign was about the time I dipped. And I love Bret Hart. It wasn't because he was on top and Warrior and Hogan weren't or anything like that. It's just I started to realize more and more the fakeness of wrestling, and I mean I got it, but I think that was sort of like a detriment to my fandom, that I started seeing more of the seams. I didn't buy into it as much. I mean, I'm sure I knew that it wasn't real, but as it got more silly and the scenes would start to show, and you would see more wrestlers out in the wild, like I knew that Undertaker had bought property in the state that I lived in, and I was like, what? Like it threw me off, but it's I mean they're regular people, but just as a kid, it kind of hurt things. I guess that's why it's important to for people to keep kayfabe, because it helps keep the illusion alive. The more and more you see the fakeness in the seams, the less and less you can just sort of buy in and focus on it. Even if you know it's not real, just it sort of hurts it a little bit. And I don't mind now that kayfabe is dead. It's just, especially when you're a kid, I think it helps. But I got back into pro wrestling the way a lot of people did, which is the Attitude Era. A lot of my friends were watching the show, and they would buy the merch and all of these things, and I wasn't watching it. I did see, probably the only thing I saw in the interim was, I never really watched WCW. I have no memories of it before I got back in 1998. But I did see some ECW because I live on the East Coast. I was able to see that stuff on the MSG network. Now I remember I've been trying to find clips of it. I don't know. There's this black guy. He wear white tights. He did a. I've seen the wrestler since then, but I've never seen that match or whatever. But I remember him diving out of the ring, like maybe doing like a pescado, just slinging himself over, and his head hit the cement because there was no padding out there, and he had this big ass knot on his head for the rest of the match, and I had never seen anything like that. I feel like when I was younger, there wasn't really any blood or anything like that, and wrestling is very kid oriented. I mean, there was some. I remember, like, I believe it was Hogan Slaughter when he was bleeding stuff, but just you didn't see a lot of those types of injuries, and I remember that captivated me because I was like, oh, this is different. This is something I hadn't seen before. Um, but yeah, so the first show I remember watching, I may have watched some Raws before then, but the first show I remember watching was SummerSlam 1998. I used to have one of those boxes. I don't. Most of you would not be old enough to know, but mail postal carriers would have them. I guess it's sort of test equipment or connections, but it was these RFT boxes that a lot of people had when they were younger. You plug, your cable into that and then into your box, and then you would get all of these channels, including pay per view. So for a while there, I was just watching pay per view probably until like '01, '02, something like that. And that made watching wrestling kind of difficult by that point. Not the pay per views, because I was never going to pay for those. But I watched the SummerSlam, and I was immediately a fan. I remember, like, it also shows how it's important to have the whole show be entertaining, feel important, and what have you. Because I remember even so, like, if that's my first pay per view in years, the first match I was seeing was D'Lo versus Val, and I became fans of them immediately, especially D'Lo. D'Lo Brown is one of my dudes. I can make a video one day breaking down why I'm a huge fan of his, but he's an opening act at that time. He was just European title D'Lo, but I was hyped off of him and just all of these people. The dumpster match, I thought the Taker versus Austin match was cool. That would have lured me into thinking that they had tremendous chemistry. I would say this right now that 9 times out of 10, I can't stand the Undertaker versus Stone Cold match. They do not mix. I think Undertaker needs to have a little bit more of a fast pace, and you can't really do that with Austin post neck injury. And he got better at bumping and stuff like that after 2000 when he had the surgery and he was able to come back. But if you watch Austin, and I went back and watched a lot of the stuff that I didn't see, not really the golden era, like not really the era before the attitude picked up, but right before. I mean, but right before. So like 96, 97, I've seen most of that stuff, the Raws, pay-per-views, and I've seen pay-per-views and stuff after that, but not really any of the Raws, the TV stuff. But I was a fan ever since, and then I jumped into WCW at that point, and I remember, you're doing the thing, you're jumping back and forth from show to show. And primarily I would watch WWF, but I would definitely jump back and forth. And I was a fan of DDP and Jericho and Goldberg. Perry Saturn was one of my dudes, like one of my like low key. Because a lot of people will judge me if I'm talking about my favorite wrestlers, because a lot of them will be not the bigger guys. They're more agile. My thing is that I like variety in my performers. So when you have a thing like you have a Eddie Guerrero, for example, or a Chris Benoit, a Jericho, an Angle, a Bret Hart, a Shawn Michaels, even an Undertaker, just Brock, especially in his prime, just all these types of people, they can do a lot of things. They can do submission, they can do power moves, they can do high flying, they can do all of these things. That's the people that I'm the biggest fan of. It's not necessarily about, oh, I don't like hosses or anything like that. I don't like Haas matches that much, but it's not just because a lot of it could just be basic. It's just a bunch of big boots and side slams. That stuff doesn't really appeal to me. Doesn't get me hyped. Um, but yeah, so that's where the fandom started, and I would see watch the WWF, WCW, and ECW, and I just kept following, becoming more and more of a fan. I will always say that my favorite era as a wrestling fan was SmackDown in 2003. Just that time period, like the late 2002, when Heyman was really in charge. Just he really knew how to make the whole show feel important, entertaining, give something for all of the guys to do. Because you would even if you had like the full blooded Italians there and they weren't wrestling, they were taking bets on matches in the back. Just little fun things like that you don't really get anymore. But that's something, and even Russo was really good with that in the Attitude Era. The match quality and a lot of the stuff doesn't hold up, but he would take the time to try and give big plot lines and stories to all of the performers, not just Rock and Austin or whoever. But and a lot of it wouldn't stick, it wouldn't work, but plenty of it did, and you would remember. Like I don't know, I mean, just off of talent, they may have been able to do it, but who knows how long it would have took for our Hardy Boys and the Edge and Christian to be able to start getting built up and moving there if it wasn't for Russo sort of sowing the seeds. Because by the time they really blew up, he was gone, but he had already set them up. And also, they definitely were following a template after Russo left for a while, just in terms of how he did things, and it sort of evolved over time. But yeah, that was my favorite time. Just a lot of great matches and things like that. So I've been a fan for years and years. 2009, I had a job where I was working where it's a contracted job, just taking care of a lot of printers. Just you fill the ink, you uh bring the paper there, fix jams, all of these things. And then I had a that was full time but didn't pay a lot. And then I had a part time job at a warehouse after that that paid pretty well, but the hours weren't there. But while I was at the contracted job, it was a lot of times when I didn't have anything to do. If you did your job correctly, I was working with two other people, even though I did a lot of the work. But um, there would be plenty of times when, like, if you did your work correctly, you could just sort of chill at your computer. So that was how I sort of got into this. I didn't really watch or use the internet a lot from like when it blew up until '09. I had a pretty slow computer and it was dialed up. Like, I mean, I didn't get a computer of my own until 2003, and it wasn't until 2009 that I got my laptop. And then when I had moved to my first like own apartment, I had didn't have dial up anymore. I got like actual cable, and so I was able to download all of these things. So I started getting into wrestling from around the world. I discovered Noah and New Japan and Stardom and just all of these things, and I was able to, and that's also how it helped me watch all of the older things that I hadn't seen and just become fans of these people and that people. But I would see a lot of wrestling on YouTube, and I would sort of see stuff, and I'd be like, yeah, I could do that. Just sort of with the little bit of the Windows editing software, they had all of these things. So I started doing little compilations, but like the editing is super rudimentary and things like that. But I think the first top 10 video I did was on D'Lo Brown. That shows you how much of a fan I was, but also because I kept getting my hand on all of these episodes of Nitro and Raw and SmackDown and ECW, all of these things. So I started uploading the shows, but like in segments, because that was something that was interesting too. Was just you may want to not necessarily watch a show, but you would be looking for, okay, this match from that episode and then this segment or whatever. So I just kept breaking down the segments, like, okay, this was backstage segment of the show, and I put it like 1 and 9, 2 and 9, whatever, and put the match as itself, a segment by itself, whatever, and then I would do editing here and there to have certain clips up because copyright was still a thing back then. Obviously, it wasn't the way it is now. But that's how I got started out, just small top tens and things like that. And I know that I've talked about it before, but people thought like I was Suicidal Dragon, which was this YouTuber that did a lot of top tens. That's where I got the idea to do it, but I'm not him, and I don't know who that guy is. Like, of course, like his stuff evaporated because what he was doing was he wasn't using like WWF and things like that, but he's using Japan stuff to get around copyright. But then Japan is probably more harsh on copyright than even the States, like maybe. So all of that stuff just vanished. Like he used a lot of Noah and New Japan stuff. So even if he's doing top 10 moves of Hulk Hogan, he wouldn't use anything from WWF or WCW, but he would use stuff from his time when he would ever wrestle in Japan. Um, but yeah, so I kept watching more shows, and then I started seeing more independent wrestling. I discovered PWG and ROH and all of these things. So I kept seeing all of this stuff. I had all of this content saved and all of this. So I just started making compilations, top ones, but then I honestly can't remember the genesis of how the moves and spots that made me go, holy shit, started. But I noticed that people would zero in on certain clips or want to see certain things or whatever. And I would see all of these crazy moments, but I'm trying to figure out a way to get them out. I may have even put them as solo clips at first and then decided to do it as a compilation. But that's what I started doing. And also, like, I couldn't keep putting up the shows because after a while, like, when I say I went through probably like 10 channels or whatever, a lot of that was because of the doing all of the shows or whatever, because I would get taken down, then I would pop back up. And then BDWJ 1986 is when I forget, like, I think I started with 82 and it may not, I think it was my initials in 1982. And then I started doing the BDWJ because I was trying to figure out a way to like move away from my name, have like a YouTube persona, but something wrestling related. So BDWJ is Break Down the Walls of Jericho. Like, that's where the initials come from. It's not just random. But yeah, so that whole time I was dropping stuff like from 82 to 86. Then 86 was where I sort of found my niche, and I had that for like 2 to 3 years without losing the channel. And then I started losing channels again, and I would try to build things up and kept losing them. And then before I did this channel, I I was making a huge effort to try and do things to where the copyright wasn't getting hit as much. But like the goalposts would always be moved. Like, I played with how long the clips were, and then over time as I was losing channels, then I'd be like, all right, I can't use AEW. I can't. Okay, now I can't use WWF stuff. And I can't use New Japan. So that's where I am now, where I don't put New Japan stuff on there. I don't put Stardom stuff, because when you lose your channel, but it's in waves, so it's not all at the same time, you can sort of see the people who are hitting you. And it would be a lot of Japanese companies based on the emails. So I was like, all right, I'm going to start cutting that stuff out. And then obviously WWF and AEW. I only got hit with something from Lucha Underground once. I feel like it was only stuff related to Prince Puma or Ricochet. Like, I think it even was like a top moves video for him, just for that character Ricochet played. But other than that, I've never had any issues with Lucha Underground. Um, but yeah, so that brought me to where I am now, to where I'm more so focused on the indies. TNA, they've never been overt with like, like being sensitive about copyright. Older ROH, like, I don't do any of the stuff that AEW owns. I mean, they own the library too, but they don't flag the old stuff. But the stuff, since they've been running it as their ROH, I don't touch that stuff. The older stuff, they've been fine with leaving that as it is. And I don't touch anything that like they may have put up ROH related that is older. It's just the older ROH. And if I see a pivot to where they start going at it, I'll stop that too. The newest thing I've had to cut out is AAA because WWE bought it. So now I started getting flagged on my videos. Never any legitimate copyrights or anything, but it would just be blocked in certain territories. Like I think for whatever reason, Russia, I kept getting videos blocked. But that's why now you won't see any AAA stuff. And I hate that because that was fun, and it keeps narrowing in what I can use. But I don't own the stuff, so I get it. But I've always been like I'm giving free advertising. It's a lot of people wouldn't see or know about this stuff if I wasn't showing it, and I've helped create fans of different styles and wrestlers and promotions and things of that nature. And I really just want to share how cool and great wrestling can be. It could be just beautiful, just everyone's working in motion, just these great moves, but also could be very violent, very tough. It could be comedic. It has stuff for everyone, and I want to be able to share that with the world. But I get that I don't own it, so I just try to do what I can and work with the people. I'm not mad at any of the companies for what they do. It's their content. They have the right to do what they feel. It's just, like it just be even more of the things like work with me. I would even, promote if you want to, or just we you could actually work with me on it and it could help you out. But I get it, and also they have people like WWE has people to do their own compilations and the YouTube stuff. They don't need to worry about me. I'm just saying from an overall perspective. But that's how I got into all of this. I'm still a big wrestling fan, but it's more so for the BDWJ Forever channel and trying to cultivate that. I don't know. At this point, I don't know if I ever hit 100K on that one. What I noticed, what kept happening is once I would get over 100K, that's when my channels would get popped. That's what happened with BDWJ 1986 and Wrestling Blitz and all of these channels, like the ones that I tried to do. I would break that threshold. I don't know, I've never gotten more than 110,000 subs. But once I broke that threshold, then I would just be getting copyrights by like crazy, and that just always ticked me off. Cause like now I'm at the point where I really have an audience, and like I could really show a lot of great things to more and more people. Cause that's what it's about for me. I don't make a lot of money from this. I don't like it's. I basically get a little bit of money towards gas every month at this point, just on Patreon. Just I've never gotten that type of support. People would get on me a lot, like you should have a Patreon because all you do da da da. Because for a while I didn't do it, and that's why the Patreon is still BDWJ 1986 because that's when I started it all the way back then. But I've never gotten more than like 20 something dollars or so off of that in a month, and that's over time that's all I've made. I don't even know. I'm sure I haven't even made like $500 in total off of YouTube, which is fine. But hopefully through this that could be a little bit of a change as I to try to grow, because this is the stuff that I enjoy, just sort of conversing with people, sharing perspectives, learning different things, just having fun. And YouTube is a great way to do that, but there's just this it's still a business just like anything else, so it could be hard to work around. But hopefully you guys are enjoying everything. I've noticed that the BDWA channel has just suffered a major fall over time. The fact that I have, I think maybe like 64 subs right now, and I can barely get a video over 20K is just that kind of saddens me, because even I'm more focused now on the stuff that people wanted to see. Even the pro wrestling try to win. So last one I did, it's not even over 10K in views, and it's not blocked anywhere or anything like that. But it's like what, yeah, people used to eat that up, like, and just begging me to do more. And I made that one half fresh content to make it more to make it a better challenge, to make the videos better. So I just saved a bunch of stuff I could have used in the OMG series just for that. and the fact that it's like between 7 and 8K after months of me uploading it, that it's disheartening to see. But I'm just overall, I just need to just stay focused and to try to make everything the best way that I can. I can't control a lot of things, so I just gotta work with what I have, and over the time, maybe I'll be able to grow and find my audience and just at least have something that I'm passionate about besides my job that I'm doing. And hopefully that will be stuff like this, but we'll see. And even if it isn't, I'm just going to try to have fun with it along the way. But I thank you guys for clicking on this, and I already know like I'm going to put it on the community tab on BDWJ forever, because even though I'm asking people to subscribe and this and that, like people aren't really doing it, or they're not really watching the videos or whatever. But at least I do have some of you guys that are very focused and dedicated, and you guys will support in any way you can. So keep doing what you can with this channel and that channel, helping to make things grow, because I you guys keep this going. It doesn't matter what job you have. The the consumer, the audience, those are the people who keeps everything going. It doesn't None of it matters if people don't want what you're giving out, or you're doing a service but that service isn't done well. Then what are we doing here? But I appreciate all the love you guys give me and the support. And obviously I've been going through a bit this year with my job and things like that, and that's been tough, just sort of mentally, just because I've been such a worker. I've been working pretty steadily since I was 15 years old, and I'm 44 now, and this is the first time in decades where I've had a sustained unemployment situation going on. And it was put on me. I wasn't laid off. A lot of people are. A lot of people at the place where I worked at have been laid off. So it's not just me. So, and that can may hurt my chances of getting jobs quicker, because a lot of people are unemployed. They're definitely talented. They can do the work, but they just lost a spot that they were in. So it's a lot of people on the job market that may be even more qualified than me, or they give better interviews. I don't know what it is, but I'm just trying not to be stressed and worried about it so much, and then just take it one day at a time. I believe that I'll be okay overall. It's just this is definitely a rough patch, and then when I bounce back, I'm gonna give it my all like I always do. But thanks for listening, everyone. I truly do appreciate it. Bye for now.